Michael and Ashlee Cramer, a dynamic son and mother duo, have taken on transplant and graft-versus-host disease and are fighting the good fight.
So when I was 19, it was the COVID lockdown here in Miami, and I was home from college. The beaches were closed, schools were closed, gyms were closed, and I just remember feeling this immense feeling of fatigue, tiredness, and at the time I was very athletic, very healthy, and I was always in the gym, always doing lots of stuff during the day. And I remember it was very hard for me to wake up early in the morning and get my workout in and just do the things that I would do every day. I was just so tired. And my mom and I, we possibly thought that, maybe I actually had COVID or something, or who really knows? I thought it was maybe anemic because we Googled it and my symptoms kind of lined up with anemia because I started to develop some night sweats and then eventually some fevers, which is what led us to go to the doctor and do some blood work, which eventually led to coming to Nicholas Children's Hospital and then doing blood work there, getting a biopsy there, and then getting the diagnosis of lymphoma or leukemia, which then led to 3 weeks later the diagnosis of hepatosplenic T-cell lymphoma. And the doctors basically told me I needed to go through 2 to 6 rounds of chemotherapy, whatever it was, to get me into the deepest remission possible. And then I would need a bone marrow transplant from a donor. I was already in remission from cancer, so I was like, okay, if I could get into remission from cancer after just a few months of chemo, after the transplant, I should be done and I should go back to surfing, go back to living my normal life. I'll go back to college and just do everything I was doing before. I really thought that the transplant was it. I was going to be fine. I was admitted for over 6 weeks for that. It was a very, very difficult procedure. And after the bone marrow transplant, I developed graft-versus-host disease. And we've spent the last 4 years, my mom and I, in and out of the hospital as I've been dealing with life-threatening complications from graft-versus-host disease, which eventually became chronic graft-versus-host disease, which is what I live with today. And it's affected my mouth, my skin, my liver, and my GI tract. I think everything I've been through was so difficult, and for those years I was really, really struggling. When I was admitted to the hospital, I went through a lot of stuff. It was just not an easy time, and I learned that the best thing that you can do is, when you go through something so hard, is offer your perspective to other people. And I feel that I've been able to reach out to so many other people who have been through cancer or are going through cancer and offer them words of encouragement or support and tell them that, hey, this might be the hardest thing you're ever going to go through, but it can still be a good experience. And what I've been through has taught me so much, and it's given me this beautiful perspective on life. Like, I realized that the life that I had before cancer, it really made me appreciate how good of a quality of life I had before cancer. And although I don't live the same life now, I look back and I say I was so blessed growing up with such amazing parents, such an amazing family, such amazing friends, such a great life, because we traveled the world windsurfing, doing these competitions and surfing, and I had a great experience. And now, life is different, but it's still beautiful in so many ways, and there's so many amazing things that I still can do.
There's always the good and the bad, and it's where you put your attention on. You have that choice, I think. And we didn't have the choice about getting cancer. He was healthy. He ate the healthy foods, the right foods. We did the right things, and he still got cancer. It was out of our control. But what we can control now is, okay, how do we react? How do we move forward? And is there beauty in this? And there really is. And I think a lot of it has been the connection with other people and the perspective on life. It's kind of like living on borrowed time in a good way, because you're like, gosh, that means today really is a gift. The fact that we're alive, the fact that we're here, the fact that we're together, it really is a gift.
Yeah, losing my father was a very difficult thing for me to go through at a young age. When he was diagnosed with cancer, honestly, we thought he was going to survive. But then when he relapsed with his form of cancer and he passed away, to me, it was very sudden. I was young, I was 14 years old. I really didn't understand exactly what was going on at the time. But I just remember my mom telling me that he was going to pass away, and then he was put into hospice. And it was very quick, and it was very tough to see him, because he got really, really, really skinny, and he looked really, really sick. And it was hard to watch him go through that. And it kind of shifted my perspective, because when I was diagnosed with cancer, I kind of felt like obviously I have no control over if I survive or if I don't, but I knew that I had to do this for him and for my family, and to do the treatment and do everything I could to survive, because my father passed away from lymphoma. I had a form of lymphoma, not the same one, not related, but you know, it was like, it was kind of destined to happen that I was going to go through this and get through it and be on the other side and kind of do this for my dad in a way.
Everything we went through with my husband we were always a close family, but it also brought the 3 kids and I like rock solid close. When you lose a parent, my kids were 16, 14, and 12 when he died. We were already like this, we got like this. And then when Michael was diagnosed, we got like even closer. So I think that was another preparation, just how close we became.
Yeah, taking care of yourself with GVHD is definitely not easy. Symptoms can arise at any times, and it's really important for me, I think, especially when you have GVHD, like chronic GVHD, it's important to just, if you need to or you feel a new symptom, to just reach out to your doctor. Like, my doctor, thankfully, has been absolutely amazing, and whenever we email him, he'll answer like within a few hours, like right away. He's an amazing doctor, and it's really important that you have a good connection with your team, I think, because GVHD, like, there's a lot of things that we don't know about it as patients. Like the GI GVHD, like at first it was like a small amount of like diarrhea, and then it became really, really bad. And if I didn't say anything, like, I could have passed away because it was really severe. So it's really important to just tell your doctor how you're feeling and what's going on. It's obviously not easy to be vulnerable with your doctor, because doctors can sometimes be intimidating at first, especially if like it's a new doctor, but it's really important to understand that that's why the doctor is there. And they're also a human too, like, you know, they're human. Before my diagnosis, I was a windsurfer on the Olympic development team, so we did like Olympic development clinics all the time here in Miami's, ODPs we called them. And we traveled like the world doing that. It was really a great time. That was in my high school years. And we went to places like Italy, France, Peru, Latvia, Poland, all these competitions. And physical activity just has meant so much to me, because I grew up on the water, I grew up in the gym, I grew up just being active. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, one thing I wanted to do was stay as active as I could. So whenever we would be admitted to the hospital, we would bring like our 3 or 5 pound weights. We would just curl them, do whatever it was, like go for walks in the hospital. Because I feel like physical activity, especially when you're going through something like cancer, there's so much fatigue around it. And after cancer, especially with GVHD, you're left with a body that's been through so much, and rehabbing that body can be extremely difficult. But I think the best way to get back to a good mental state and a good physical state is just by starting and by doing exercise, because it'll really make a lot of your symptoms feel much better. And what I've looked at is realized, okay, so I have necrosis in my elbows and my knees, and it's hard to do the things I used to do. I can't really get much sun, so I'm limited in the physical activities I can do and when I can do them. But you know, it's life. You have to just adapt to your situation. And a lot of times we want to feel sorry for ourselves, but when you have something like graft-versus-host disease and you want to be happy, you want to live a good life, you're going to have to just adapt and find new ways of doing things that you used to do before. And it's not easy, but it's really important just to start somewhere. I started playing the guitar. That's been a huge thing for me, is playing electric guitar. It's been super fun, because when I have weeks of treatment, it's hard for me, you know, to go outside, go to the beach, or do any physical activity at all because of treatment. So it's really important that I have stuff that I can do at home or stuff that I can do from the hospital, and that's definitely been like electric guitar and Lego. That's my favorite thing. I love both so much. I've always loved Lego, but I dove back into it when I was diagnosed. We had some old Lego sets in our closet that we were gonna give to some family members, and I ended up just taking them out of the closet and building them during my bone marrow transplant, and it just became an addiction. Hello and welcome to an extremely special episode of Michael and Mom Talk Cancer. I am your official. Social media has been a great outlet. I've been able to connect with so many other cancer survivors, so many other cancer patients, and people with graft-versus-host disease as well.
And I think that is my biggest message, is really bounce forward.
Yeah, it's not easy to go through something like graft-versus-host disease at my age, specifically because going through cancer at this age is difficult. And when you're my age, it's more like people are just starting to live their lives. And here we are, most people with GVHD are either on disability or unable to work. And it's a really difficult time because this is when people really become independent. This is when people, they go and they move to a city and they get a job. And, we start doing things at this age and things that it's harder for me to do. And it's not the same, but my message is just like, this is difficult, but we got this.
For more information, to sign up for our newsletter, and to connect with us on social media, visit bmtinfonet.org.